Hey there, everybody. Dave Valente, Thursday Night Hockey Show tonight. We're trying something new. We're actually broadcasting simultaneously on Restream, which is over on this screen, and on YouTube, or I'm not sorry, YouTube, not YouTube, but we're actually we are on this screen. But on this screen, we are broadcasting on TikTok simultaneously. The cool thing about seeing the show on TikTok is that you can actually see what's I see on my screen when I'm doing the show. So if you ever were curious about what a show on Restream looks like, if you're curious about starting your own show, first off, I encourage you to do it. It's a great show, great time to do it. And but it's a very busy night in the NHL. We got four games. And it's not as busy as a regular season night, but we've got four games, all very high stakes. All four teams competing tonight are fighting for their playoff lives because if they lose tonight, four of those teams lose tonight, they're going on the road down 2 games to none. So very high stakes for all the teams that are involved. Thanks for joining us on TikTok. Thank you for joining us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, wherever you were watching from on the direct restream broadcast. Um, anyway, if you're on TikTok, please tap the screen, send us some likes. What that does is it boosts our viewing, boosts the algorithm so that it draws more eyes to the show. It is free. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're at on this side, on my restream side, give it a like, share, subscribe. Just gets more people's eyes on the show and gets more engagement. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop a question either on TikTok or Facebook. I can see them either way, and I'll be happy to address them. So let's take a look at tonight's games. We got four games tonight, as I mentioned. So tonight, all these times are Eastern. The Lightning are at the Leafs at 7 p.m. The Rangers are at the Rock facing the Devils, and that is at 7:30. The Kraken are at Ball Arena in Denver for a matchup with the Avalanche at 9:30, and the Jets and the Golden Knights go at 10 p.m. tonight. So we got games going. I've been watching hockey from 7 p.m. till 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. Each night. It's been great. Great first three nights of the NHL playoffs. Some real surprises too. So, and some not so much. In fact, let's talk about tonight's series. One is not so much of a surprise. They are who we thought they were. Um, Only one team in the entire NHL playoffs bracket has been able to manage to hold on to home ice for the first two games. We got, and it's not going to happen tonight because all four teams lost their first game at home ice. So, but Carolina managed to win both games in Raleigh. Four teams tonight hope to avoid going on the road down 2-0. The Leafs are who we thought they were. Vegas's best performance was the pregame show in game one. Um, Outside of that, it was pretty pedestrian, and then lots of goals were scored on night two. So, it was a very interesting night. But let's talk about tonight's games. So the Leafs are go. The, it's to nobody's surprise. The Leafs do this every time. They find themselves down 1 game to none to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Although last year it was the Leafs that won game one of the series, but still lost the series in seven. If I'm a Leafs fan, I'm very concerned because uh, eh, this is what they've done the last decade. They are a very cheap bar drunk. One round and they're out. And nothing from Tuesday's game game one was a very good thing for the Leafs. Yes, they scored 3 goals, but they gave up seven. And Ilya Samsonov did not look good at all. Got pulled in the third period. Joseph Wall came in to spell Samsonov, and he allowed a goal like the first couple of shots that he faced. Although he settled down, and they only got the one goal on him. But yeah, 7-3 loss in game one. Lightning got contributions up and down the lineup from the pluggers like Pierre Edward Belmar and former scorer Corey Perry, who had not scored a single point in 24 games, got a goal in the game. To your big guys like Nikita Kucherov. Um, yeah, Samsonov only got 23 of 29 saves before being spelled by Wall. Um, And if he has a stinker tonight, expect Wall to be starting on Saturday when the Leafs are in Tampa for Game 3. But I think at that point, if it's 2-0 going to Tampa, it's already too late for the Leafs. That is not good at all. So, um, yeah, Heidi, here for it because I'm a when the Leafs do the thing, and I'm having connectivity issues. Hopefully, y'all are still seeing this. I know that both of these, me running both of these things at the same time is probably a resource hog, but um, let's get through the other games tonight. So the Rangers are hosting, or at the Devils. Sorry, it really does feel like the Rangers are hosting the Devils. If you watched Game One went to the Rangers 5-1. Shesterkin stopped everything except for a Jack Hughes penalty shot in the third period. And by that the game was pretty much over. The Devils did pull their goalie in vain and allowed the fifth goal. Um, but Chris Kreider had 2 goals, um, and the arena sounded like MSG. It really did. Yeah, it's The Rock. It's in Newark, but that was a home game for the Rangers. They played way too much. Hey, Jasper, how you doing, man? Playoffs being something. The Bruins losing last night was a stunner, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Um, But yeah, the Devils need to raise their game if they're gonna wanna go back to the real MSG, not down 2 games to none, 'cause, that effort that they had last night, it didn't surprise me because as far as I'm concerned, the Devils have overachieved this season. I mean, they made almost a 50-point progression from last season to this season, and that's in and of itself is phenomenal, but it's the fact that they haven't been in the playoffs for a while, and now they have to, raise their game, and they have not done that before. They don't know what raising their game is like, to a playoff level. Now, one thing I will say is Lindy Ruff is one of the most adaptable coaches out there, and if he gets I think he can push the right buttons. I hear that Timo Meyer is going to move up to the first line. That should help. Um but if anybody's gonna help the Devils, adapt from game 1 to game 2, it's gonna be Lindy Ruff. But I think the Rangers are way too experienced to allow the Devils into the series. I think the Rangers really will make quick work of the Devils in round 1. Um Let's talk about the 3rd game. Well, actually, this is the 4th game of the night tonight, but, the surprise of Tuesday was the, Winnipeg Jets just dispatching the Vegas Golden Knights with ease, 5-1. The Jets struggled to make the playoffs late this year. They actually were competing for the Central Division title for most of the season, and then they just swooned the last month, probably from the trade deadline on, they just swooned. And, yeah, first seed has been a curse of late, Heidi. I do agree with that. Um, but yeah, Vegas didn't look good. I said that the best part of Vegas's night on Tuesday was the pregame entertainment. Um, After that, it got really bad really quickly. 5-1, the Winnipeg Jets got the win. Adam Lowry had 2 goals, from the back end. Connor Hellebuck stopped all but 1 shot, but it was a very pedestrian effort for the Vegas Golden Knights. They only managed 17 shots on goal against the Winnipeg Jets. I don't understand how you do that. They should be firing on all cylinders. Yes, if the Devils can't defend tonight, they're done. They definitely need to, bring a defensive effort tonight. They're a little too much run and gun, and, yeah, yeah, just kinda harkening back to the Sabres and Devils games, those were more run and gun. When we played the Rangers, those were lockdown defensive efforts, especially late in the season against the Rangers. That's kind of the game that you have to play. The Rangers can still win those type of games. It's just, for you to win, you can't get into a track meet with them because they're gonna beat you on experience. Um But back to the Golden Knights, both Jack Eichel and Mark Stone were -3 for the Golden Knights, which, gives me a little bit of schadenfreude, um, on the Eichel, uh on the Eichel front. And if the Vegas Golden Knights want to extend Jack Eichel's first foray into the playoffs, then they need to get more than 17 shots in game number two. Because what they did this past game just wasn't enough. 17 shots is never enough in a playoff game. You have to generate more offensive chances than that. And then finally, the last game of the night is going to feel well, it's actually the third game of the night. The Seattle Kraken, the debutantes to the dance, got a game 1 win on the road. They played a perfect road game. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think they flipped the score tonight. I don't know. I mean, remember they get their confidence shaken last year by not making the playoffs. They had a significant improvement. They much healthier this year. Um, I don't know. And the one thing about the Jets is over the last week and a half, they were probably one of the hottest teams in hockey, and a lot of pundits, did pick the Jets to pull the upset in this one. I'm not sure I'm there yet. I still think that the, Golden Knights win in 6, but, um, you can never tell when you're playing a guy like Connor Hellebuck. He could steal a series for you. But yeah, the Kraken versus the Avalanche, so that was a stunner on Tuesday night. I actually watched the entire game. I didn't watch much of the Vegas Golden Knights game. I watched this game, and it was entertaining to see the Kraken just play almost a perfect road game. Um, they've, from the first goal that kind of stunned that ball arena crowd, and I think took the air out of that crowd. Even with Rantanen scoring later in the period to bring the crowd back into it. Early goals in all three periods really just stamped out a lot of the emotion on the Colorado Avalanche's side. Um, Colorado has most of their defensive core back. I think Jack Johnson's the only guy that they don't have in the lineup, um, which was kind of a question going into the playoffs, but they do have most of those players. Their forwards are going to have to step up. They did have some good possession time, but nothing was generated that was super dangerous on Philip Grubauer. Philip Grubauer made 34 or 35 saves, and yeah, they got to figure out the Avs need to figure out their forward core to flip that script on the Kraken, or they're going to go down 2 games to none, and go into Climate Pledge Arena. We don't know what the playoff atmosphere is going to be going into the into round number or into game number 3, going into Climate Pledge Arena. It's going to be raucous. It's their first time doing it. I just don't know if they're going to what kind of page they're going to take off of it. Are they going to go more of the show style like the Vegas Golden Knights, or are they going to be more of an organic, a bunch of people in the park like the Leafs and the Sabres do when if they're ever back in the playoffs? I hope so at some point in my life. Um, can they really build up and what kind of playoff atmosphere are they going to draw out in Seattle? Um, Hopefully they're not jerks like the Vancouver Canuck fans. Um, but yeah, that's the last game of the evening. The Jets and the Golden Knights. That game goes at 10 p.m. tonight. The Kraken and Avalanche go at 9:30 p.m. All these times are Eastern. Um, Starting in just 15 minutes, the Leafs and the Lightning, and then we have our 7:30 game, the Rangers at the Devils. I believe the Rangers and Devils are on TNT or TBS, and the other games are on the ESPN suite of networks. So, but yeah, all these series have been pretty entertaining so far. Um, let's go to the games that we've actually got. We had game 2 last night for all 4 of the series. Biggest surprise is the Panthers got off the mat. Um, they yeah, for game 1, the Panthers come in, they lose 3-1, and I was saying that this is probably the game that they needed to win to make noise in this series. I'm still not counting Boston out. Although it would be interesting to see a team that is so had such a great regular season be done in by a flu. Right now, Brad Marchand or not Brad Marchand, I mean, Patrice Bergeron is down with the flu. Both of the goaltenders have had the flu recently. Um, can they get healthy enough to compete in this series? They did well in game one. They won 3-1. It was a very good effort by the Boston Bruins. They looked as strong as they did in the regular season. They played well in game two for the first half. Um, uh, the Panthers were lucky and they got healthy, a little healthier with, Sam Bennett returning to the lineup. He scored the first goal, and then they dropped 4 goals in the 3rd period to rock a 6-3 victory over the Boston Bruins. Um, the that was a comprehensive effort. Brandon Montour got 2 goals. Bennett, as, mentioned, got a goal and I think a couple assists as well. Um, so what kind of series do we have going back to Florida now? Uh, I lovingly call it Ratsylvania because, the big thing for the Florida Panthers is when they score a playoff goal, the people throw rats on the ice. Not real rats, usually plastic rats, unlike Detroit, where it's a real octopus, or Nashville, where it's a real catfish. Um, but I think every once in a while you'll see a real rat thrown on the ice. That's dedication to the craft right there. But yeah, what kind of series do we have going? Because can the Boston Bruins get healthy for game number three? Game number three. Will Patrice Bergeron even travel with the team? And you don't want a guy with the flu traveling with the team, possibly spreading it to other players or spreading it worse than it already is. I think they've kind of worked out the stuff with the goalies, but still, a flu can really wreck a team, and that would be, look, as a Sabres fan, I'm not gonna cry if the Boston Bruins get knocked out in round 1, but it would be a damn shame for you to have that kinda season and get knocked out by a flu, as the playoffs start in April. So, um, the other series, let's take a look at the Islanders and the Hurricanes. Hurricanes are up 2 games to none. They're the only team that's held serve at home in the first 2 games, but it may have been a little bit of a Pyrrhic victory in game 2. But talking about game 1, they outlasted the Islanders 2-1, and that is, as we expected, a very defensive, pedestrian game that, I mean, if you like defensive hockey, it's right up your alley, but it was pretty dull. I wasn't a real big fan of that, first game. Second game was a little more entertaining. Carolina raced out to a 2 lead, early in the second period on a very fluky goal. Stefan Nason, shot a puck at the defenseman. It was on the power play. They're entering the zone, and he was just flinging the puck. Um, I'm not even sure he was really shooting for the goal. I think he was just shooting, in the general direction, maybe to get a wrap around towards the other side. Um, but it tipped off the defenseman's stick, who he lifted his stick and just kind of knocked it up in the air, and it floated over Ilya Sorokin and landed in the back of the net. I mean, it was just kind of a stunning goal. I don't think anybody really expected that, to happen. But to the Islanders' credit, they stormed back. They scored 3 straight goals. They have a 3-2 lead, about halfway through the 3rd period uh, before, who is it? Not Nason. I can't remember who scored oh, it's Jacob Slavin. That's right. Jacob Slavin scored the game tying goal about 7 minutes from the end of the game. They go to overtime, and then Ilya Sorokin just allows. I mean, the fluke goal was a fluke goal. Weird crap like that happens all the time. Um, but the goal that he allowed in overtime was just an absolute stinker, from below the goal line, hits off his back and goes in the net. Just wasn't playing up, on the post enough to allow that goal to go in, and, Carolina goes up 2 games to none going to the island. Do I think the series is over? Do I think Carolina has the stranglehold hold? Not necessarily. One of the things that emerged after that series or after that game was that, Teuvo Teravainen, broke his hand, so he's out. Now Carolina is down, like, 3 major offensive pieces. You think of Max Pacioretty, who they acquired in the offseason, is done. Uh, uh, Andrei Svechnikov, done. And now uh, Tuvo Teravainen is out at least for the rest of this series. I think a little bit more. So, um, yeah, we'll see what happens with Carolina. Can they score now? They've always been a type of team, uh, but who's the because they're really strong. Who's the Hurricanes to push them past the Islanders, and then, gosh, I mean, when you get past the Islanders, you're playing either New York or New Jersey. Um, you're not going to get any of those three players back. A broken hand's going to go for a while. So, um, yeah, I think Carolina's got advantage now, and may be able to ride that advantage for the rest of the series. But I don't like Carolina's chances moving forward. I think they were just lacking that offensive punch that are going to carry them through three more rounds to win the cup. So, um, it's all about. And when you think about it, the Carolina Hurricanes didn't really buy much at the trade deadline, um, even though they knew that not so much about Svechnikov. That happened right after the trade deadline, but Pacioretty was injured. They didn't really acquire a whole ton. Um, for offensive depth. So they're going to have to go and do this on their own. They're going to have to hope guys like um, Kakaniemi and those kind of guys will carry the team moving forward. um, Let's talk about the battle between the Wild and the Stars, the former North Stars down in Dallas, coming back up to Minnesota now. This will be an interesting series. So the series is tied one game apiece. The Wild won 3-2 in double overtime on game one, and game two was 7-3. Of course, game three is tomorrow night, 9:30 in Minnesota at the St. Paul XL Energy Center. Um, two I will say that in both games, Dallas vastly outplayed, the Minnesota Wild. Um, I thought they had better zone time, they had better chances, especially that, the 3-2 overtime loss, the entire almost the entire both of the well, the period and a half that they played in overtime. I thought that yeah, Heidi, I think the Islanders might eke it out. It's going to be a 7-game series as they do. I don't think that this is going to swing it so much that the Islanders are going to, sweep the next 4 games. So it'll have to be a 7-game effort for the Islanders to carry it through. And I'm sure that would make Tom Mann very happy if that happens. Um, but yeah, so I thought the period and a half that they played in overtime, the Dallas carried the entire period, but period and a half. Just chance after chance after chance. They had a couple power plays, had really good chances, and Philip Gustafson really stood on his head the entire game, and was the reason why they won that game. It was a really kind of awful turnover behind the net that found Ryan Hartman right in front of the net, all alone with Jake Ottinger. Was able to wait him out and beat him, and get the 3-2 victory. Second game, it was the Stars definitely flipped the script on that one. It was a football score. They won 7-3. Um, let's see, Rope Hintz, one of the more underrated players on the Dallas Stars, notched a hat trick at Evgeny Dadonov, who came over from Montreal at the trade deadline, had 2 goals as well. I think Jason Robertson also scored. Um, they got everybody rolling. So, but for some reason, I don't understand in this game that Minnesota, instead of going back to Gustafson for game two, they went with Marc Andre Fleury. And Marc-Andre Fleury got rocked. He got rocked to sleep in that game. And, I don't know that we'll see Marc-Andre Fleury, at least for the rest of this series. It's hard to go back to a goaltender when your, first goaltender, um, you know, gives you a 3-2 victory and stands on his head, and then your kind of your established number 1 goaltender, Marc-Andre Fleury, just coughs up a stinker. And really, Gustafson outplayed Fleury down the stretch for the Minnesota Wild. So I'm anticipating just seeing Gustafson from here on out, at least in this series. If Gustafson drops a couple games in a row, maybe we see Fleury in game what that would be 5, I guess. But yeah, Fleury is definitely in the twilight of his career. Jesper says, "I hope the Bruins win, but I'll say every team is holding great." Yeah, every team has played well. Even the Islanders, who have did not win either game in Carolina, done they've done really well. I mean, the way that they came back last night after giving up that kind of back-breaking fluke goal, I'm not gonna bag on him for that. That was a heck of an effort. It was just Sorokin got I mean, there were 2 one a really weird goal and the other one was just kind of a fluke goal. And or what the overtime goal was just a really bad goal you can't allow. Um, but yeah, every team is holding their own, as evidenced by, most of these series either being 1-1, or the road team winning a game. So really home ice has not mattered except for the Carolina series. Um, Yeah, Olmark did the same thing. The comment is Fleury isn't alone. Olmark did the same thing. Yeah, last night, Olmark giving up 6 goals, kind of a shocker. I mean, one thing to think about with Florida is that's the 5th team or the 5th loss that Boston has had in regulation this season at home. That is an amazing stat. And they got I mean, I would not have been surprised to see, this series going back to Boston with, the Bruins up 2 games to none. The fact that they not only stole a game, but they actually won it in regulation. They didn't have to go like a 4 overtime marathon. It was pretty easy for him. So, Fleury does have a few tricks up his sleeve. I can't I can't see Minnesota going to him unless Gustafson drops a couple of games. I think it's Gustafson's net until he proves the otherwise. Let's go to the final series that we need to talk about. That is the Kings and the Oilers. This series is also tied 1 game apiece. And I will tell you that the Kings, whereas, like the Panthers were full value for their win the other night, the Kings were kind of lucky in both games. They were in it last night until almost the very end. There was a empty net goal that gave them the 2 goal margin of victory. But the Kings, they score with 17 seconds left in the first game. Andrei Kopitar, the ageless Slovenian, that dropped a goal with 17 seconds left to tie the game at 3. It was a game that Edmonton had been leading 2-0, allowed the Kings to stay in it, allowed the Kings to stay in it. They're able to tie it at 3, and then, they got a goal on the power play in overtime, to win game 1, stunning the Oilers. I still think the Oilers are a far better team in this series. Just watching them control the puck last night, all the chances they were generating, but we'll see. Getting the team back in front of the LA crowd, and see how they respond to it. LA does have some really good fans and should be a raucous environment there at, and Starfield environment there at, whatever they're calling it, the crypto.com Staple Center thing. I don't know. They change the name of that thing too frequently. So, but the Oilers just did salvage that split with a 4-2 victory last night. Um, Leon Draisaitl had points in 3 of the 4 Oiler goals. Honestly, Leon Draisaitl was the savior last night. Connor McDavid only has one assist in the first 2 games. Um, Leon Draisaitl has outplayed Connor McDavid this series, and if it, you know, I don't know. I think Draisaitl has had better playoffs than McDavid. I don't think that's even really that controversial. I mean, not to say that Connor McDavid has never had a really good playoffs. I just think that Leon Draisaitl is just this steady Eddie when it comes to regular season performance versus playoffs. And amazing dude. Uh, if Leon Draisaitl ever becomes unrestricted free agent, I would love to see him at Buffalo. I'd love to see him in any other team. Because I think being there with Connor McDavid, he's kind of like that. Scottie Pippen to Michael Jordan type deal. But I think Draisaitl has enough talent to stand on his own as a phenomenal player. Yes, I am Sabres for life. Somebody was I will relate the story that I'm on a few Sabres message boards or Facebook groups. And at one point during the season, somebody, made a comment about how the Sabres were playing crap defense, and they did all season. That was absolute crap defense there in Buffalo. And somebody said, "Oh, you're just a bandwagon fan." Look, if you were a fan after 12 years of no playoffs, there's no bandwagon there. The bandwagon burned down a long time ago. There's nothing but diehards left. Let's go Maple Leafs. Ah, Jeff, why, dude? Oh, Maple East. Ah, Maple East. Maple Lost. Yeah. Blow Leafs blow. Yeah. I I was really happy with that. And the other big story coming out of that Maple Leaf series is that Michael Bunting got a 3-game suspension, which is I mean, Nazem Kadri's dumb antics in the past notwithstanding. 3 games in the playoffs is almost unheard of. I mean, that has to be just borderline criminal assault. And yeah, the hit that he did on Chernak that's knocked Chernak out, was violent, was awful. Um, but I was surprised they got 3. I was thinking 2, maybe, with the Leafs bias, maybe 1 game, but yeah, 3 games. He may not play this season, for the rest of the season because. He was a first line forward with Matthews and Marner, and you know that's a he kind of landed into that position, but he's played really well. That was just a dumb penalty. I don't understand it. I know you're trying to take out. I do, yeah, Jesper. I think he did deserve the suspension. I'm just surprised that the NHL did it. I think that's where I'm at with that. Is that the NHL has disappointed me so many times on suspensions. Like, they should give that should be a suspension, and all of a sudden, they get a $5,000 fine. You're like, "What is going for that?" Yes, Leafs are prepping for their annual hibernation. I am here for it. I love it. Makes me happy. That's the greatest thing about this whole thing is how the Leafs are at least collapsed. Now, as much junk as I'm talking about the Leafs right now, I mean, they could rock off a 7-0 victory over the Tampa Bay Lightning. Let's not forget that the Tampa Bay Lightning really sucked going down the stretch of the season. Outside of that 5-0 win over Detroit, and Detroit was playing for draft picks, um, they really hadn't done anything over the last month of the season. They had secured their position. They were far enough ahead of Florida and Buffalo and all those other teams. They really didn't have to worry about the playoffs. But their play over the last month was awful. Um, and having one good game, that's great. Having contributions up and down the lineup, that's awesome. But I don't know that the Lightning revert to their old ways that had them losing right before the end of the season. So that's where I'm at with the Leafs. Yeah, I'm hoping that they just crap the bed and they're out in 4, because then they're just gonna blow that whole team up, and that will be awesome to watch, and awesome to watch the Leafs fans crying in the streets. But yeah, I mean, part of me wishes it's game 7, just that added dagger, but if it's a 4-game sweep, I think that's almost even better, so, uh Leafs, I'll tell you what, Leafs have some phenomenal talent in that team that they're absolutely wasting. Marner, I think is a great talented player. Matthews is a great talented player. Um, but I think that they've invested even Nylander, the better Nylander brother, is a great player. Um, but they've invested so heavily in their front end that their back end is so suspect. So, yes, Lightning do know the playoffs really well, but they've also played a shit ton of games the last 4 seasons. So, um, Do they hit a wall? I don't know. They're older. The Chernak injury doesn't help. Victor Hedman might not play tonight. He's a game time decision. Although I think that game has already kicked off, or it's going to kick off here in a minute. Um, yeah, so that game just started here a couple minutes ago. I don't know if Hedman is playing tonight, but that was kind of game time for Hedman. Losing Chernak, guy that they lost off their roster to this in game one. So um, it's going to be a war of attrition for the Lightning. I think Zach Bogosian draws back in for the Lightning tonight for Chernak, and then um, Hedman. If he's out, then it's Hayden Fleury coming in for him, which is not great. But they played without Hedman first game, so we'll see how it goes. Anyway, I think that's it for tonight. Thank you so much, Jesper, Heidi, Jeff. Uh, let's see. Did we have anybody else commenting tonight? For those folks watching on TikTok, I really appreciate it. Really haven't looked at the stats too much. 24 folks coming out on TikTok. I really appreciate it. Feel free anytime, whether it's on TikTok, whether it's on Twitch, Twitter, any of the other YouTube, drop a line, ask me a question. I'm happy to discuss them wherever you're at. But thanks everyone for watching tonight, and we will talk to everyone next week when we get through the end of the first round.